Good morning, it's Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVSAUDIO in Roselle, New Jersey. Our friend Tony, a good client of ours, asked me this morning, sent me a text, it was early this morning or late last night, to do a video about the different Sound Digital 800 amplifiers. The reason he asked us to do the video, he had a very valid point. If you're not familiar with the line, it gets very confusing and you don't know what you're ordering. So the Sound Digital has made 4 or 5 different versions of the 800, and there are small differences between them. We've been using Sound Digital for probably 5 years now. When we hopped in the game with Sound Digital, this was the 800.4. This was the SD 804D. That looks nothing like the current amplifiers. Had a plastic chassis, had fans on top, and it had a fixed crossover. It was a good amp, it performed well. I was never a fan of the plastic chassis amplifiers. They just looked cheap to me. They performed, they did what they were supposed to do. And the fans, we use these amplifiers in motorcycles and in cars. Whenever we install them under a seat of a car, the customers would complain that they hear the fan and they would think it was noise through the speakers when it's actually the fan kicking on, making a whizzing sound. So we'd have to relocate into the trunk so the customer couldn't hear the noise anymore. So that's no longer an issue because this is discontinued. You probably wouldn't even be able to get your hands on this anymore. But that was the original 800.4 when we became a dealer for Sound Digital. Then they came out with this chassis. Very popular. Ran through 3 or 4 different versions. This is the 800.4 Evo. So the 800.4 Evo gives you 200 watts by 4 at 12 volts at 2 ohms, 400 by 2 bridged into 4 ohms. It's, I forget what the 4 ohm number is, like 120 watts by 4 at 4 ohms. This amplifier, workhorse. The only negative points about this amplifier was the crossovers were fixed. So you turn the switch on, you either get high pass or low pass. You can't adjust the frequency. That thing was set to 80 hertz, so it was 80 hertz high pass, 80 hertz low pass, that's it. You had completely no control. Had no speaker level inputs, so you can only use RCAs. Size, as they changed the different versions, did not change. So what came after the 800.4 Evo was the 800.4 S. 800.4 S now gave you adjustable crossovers, so fully adjustable from 40 hertz all the way up to 850 hertz, completely adjustable, and speaker level inputs. So now you no longer have to use a line level converter. You could just plug the factory head unit directly in, the factory Harley Davidson head unit directly in, and as long as it didn't overdrive the inputs, I think it'll take up to 8 volts. You were good to go, no additional parts needed, and you had adjustable crossovers. The reason that none of that was an issue for us, we use a DSP on every single bike that we build, so we don't use the crossovers on the amp anyway. The crossovers would be offset to full range, and the speaker level inputs we wouldn't use either because we go speaker level or RCA into the DSP and then RCA into the amplifier. So neither of those things was a big deal to us. So whether it was the Evo S, it was the same thing. We're getting our 200 by 4 or 400 by 2 bridge. So where the game really changed, for us anyway, is when the Evo X came out. So another thing that was nice, so we've been dealing with Sound Digital for a while, and then they actually added me to the team to test products when they first come, before they come out. So me and Dorian, he's also on the team of beta testers for their stuff. So we'll talk about stuff. We've been talking about the 804 Evo X for months before it came out, testing what he liked, what he didn't like, what I liked, what I didn't like, and then sent all the information back to Sound Digital. They made some changes, and then they finally released this amazing game-changing product. So what's nice about dealing with a company like Sound Digital is they're small enough to where they can make changes and they actually listen to what us techs in the field have to say. So if anybody's been installing Sound Digital for a while, you know originally these amps came with P1 Phillips head screws. What a nightmare. The screws would strip out. It'd be hard to find a tip in the install bay. Sometimes when you over tighten it, a P1 tip was too small to be able to take the screw out, so you'd have to use a Dremel and turn it into a flathead and use a screwdriver larger torque. We spoke to them about that. They made the change within 3 months. It was amazing. We told them we needed variable crossovers and speaker level inputs. That change came within 6 months. So that's what's great about a company like Sound Digital. They actually listen. Then they built the amazing, game-changing Evo X that has everything that the older amplifiers had, and they shrunk the chassis to about half the size. That's an 804S against an Evo X 800.4. So the amp is literally half the size. And when they did that, they knew that we're using the 800.4 bridge to run a set of woofers, and then in stereo mode or bridge to run a set of mids. So they increased the power a little bit on the 800.4, and they gave it better upper mid-range response. But this amplifier doesn't do as well as this amplifier bridged into a pair of subwoofers. So what they did was they gave us the 800.1. Physically the same size, same output power, mono. This amplifier does not play above 500 hertz, so it's designed exclusively to play mid-bass drivers or subwoofers. 800.1's got a stronger power supply. So even though they're both 800 watt amplifiers, at lower frequencies, this one will put out more power than this one. That's nothing new for Sound Digital. They've been doing it in the power line for years. If you order Power 8000, you'll get over 8,000 watts RMS, 40 hertz, 12 volts. It is physically the same amplifier as the Evo 12,000, but the 12,000 is a full range amplifier. The Power 8000 is only designed to run subwoofers. So even though the amp is physically the same, when you use it for highs, the amp gives you almost double the power because mid-range is way easier for an amplifier to produce. So the amplifier can produce 1K way easier than it could produce 40 hertz or 20 hertz. So the Power 8000 is physically almost identical inside to the 12,000 Evo. So they did the same thing in the 800.1 and the 800.4. The power supply in this amplifier is designed to run lower frequencies. So we'll give you more output at lower frequencies than this amplifier will. And it's nice because they cost the same, you're not paying any more money, and they physically install in the same size and space. So this is our #1 combo. We either use two 800.4s depending on the speakers that we're running, so we can run mixed mono or stereo, or an 800.4 and an 800.1. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Sound Digital. So many companies that we deal with will make the monoblock amplifier bigger or a different size, or thank you. Two amplifiers, perfect combination, same size, same chassis, same price. 800.1, 800.4. Now, something you have to realize about the 800.1, the rating is a little bit different. So when you order, let's say, we won't talk about the Evo X on this one because this one's currently only available in 4 ohm. But if you order the Evo S, you can order it in 4 ohm or 2 ohm. The reason you would order it in 2 ohm is you can bridge the amplifier so you can get full 400 by 2 and then run 2 4 ohm drivers on the left channel and 2 4 ohm drivers on the right channel, which gives you a bridged 2 ohm mono load, maximum power from the amplifier, and then more flexibility because now where you can only run 2 drivers normally, you can run 4 and then get 200 watts per driver. So what's nice about that is it gives you more flexibility. You can design, you could do, I just quoted a system for a client with two 1204s. So one of them is going to be 2 ohm, the other one's going to be 4 ohms. One's going to run 8 speakers in stereo, the other one's going to run 4 speakers bridge, so obviously that's going to be the 2 ohm version. It just gives you so much more flexibility. So the part number for the 804 2 ohm that can run a minimum impedance of 2 ohms while bridged would be 800.4 S Evo 2 ohm. Now what's tricky about the 800.1 is the ratings do not work the same way on the 800.1, and that confused me a little bit at the beginning. The 800.1 comes in a 4 ohm version and a 2 ohm version. So that is the maximum power at that rating. The amplifier is not bridgeable because it's a single channel amplifier. So if you order the 800.1 2 ohm, which this one is, you would have to install 2 4 ohm drivers in parallel to make this amplifier do maximum power. It's a little bit different than the 4 ohm one because the 4 ohm, you have to bridge it and then show it the minimum impedance. There's no bridging on this one. So if you order the 2 ohm model, then you have to run 2 4 ohm speakers in parallel or 4 8 ohm speakers in parallel to get maximum power to this amplifier. If you order the 800.1 4 ohm, 1 4 ohm driver, done. Amplifier will give you the full 800 watts. Or 2 8 ohm drivers in parallel, done. You will get the full 800 watts. So if you have 2 4 ohm drivers, you want the maximum power out of an 800.1, you get the 2 ohm version. If you have 4 8 ohm drivers, you would get the 2 ohm version. If you have 2 8 ohm drivers, you would get the 4 ohm version. That would be 800.1 4 ohm. If you have any questions, you can text me or email me. It gets a little bit confusing, but I'll make sure that you have the right product and you mapped your system out correctly and your amplifier won't be overheating or shutting off. Another thing that they did, such a small package, it's amazing that they were able to fit all these features in. The 800.4 now has, the 800.1 now has clipping indicators. It's a feature that the 800.4 does not have. It's the one thing that makes them different. It's a 1-channel amplifier, but it has a clipping indicator. The original plastic chassis 800.4 had clipping indicators on the board. If you look through the plastic casing, you could see them on the board. So depending on how your install was done, sometimes you'd be able to see them, sometimes you weren't. Then when they went to this platform, the only thing that lights up on this amplifier is the remote. So when the amplifier sees remote, these terminals turn blue. So it was a nice feature I like to see back. So far it's only on the mono 800.1. I'd like to see it added to the 800.4 Evo X, but you can't ask for everything. They've done so much already. So you have your power indicator, your clipping indicator, and your protection light. So power on the bottom, clipping indicator, and protection. Power is blue, clipping is amber, and protection is red. And that's on the 800.1. Okay, that was a brief explanation of what all these amplifiers can do. Another thing I want you to be careful with is I've noticed I had a client do it and then I had one of my guys do it. These amplifiers are smaller, so obviously it's less solder on the board than with these amplifiers. And I've seen it done with this one too. Do not use an impact gun or a drill to tighten these down. Use the correct Allen key and use common sense when you tighten them down. These are soldered onto the board individually. I've seen people snap them off the board, and I've had to open a couple and fix them for clients. Then on these, it's the same thing. If you over tighten these, you will break the solder joint off the board and you will get a loose connection. So use common sense. They're really small Allen keys. I think it's a 2mm or 2.5. Just finger tighten. Make sure the wire's tight in there. You don't need to crank it down. You got to remember, there's a really small amplifier. There's a lot of connections really close together on the circuit board. If you over tighten it, you will snap one of these off and have a loose connection. That speaker's going to go in and out. And then these amplifiers are on back order, so it's going to be you're going to have a hard time getting another one in your hands, getting it warranted. So you're going to make yourself upset over something that could have simply been avoided. Just use a little bit of common sense. Make sure you have the wire in there securely, and if you're right-handed, use your left hand to tighten it down so you don't over torque it. A little bit of common sense. I have physically not broken one. My tech broke one. I had a customer break one. And then I had a customer break one of these, which is, wow. You know who you are too. So use a little bit of common sense. These amplifiers will last you forever. They're bulletproof. Thank you. Hope this video helped. Talk to you guys later.